James isn't the only author to have done so. Thai author Krishna Asokishan wrote the novel Sawan Biang in the year 1970. The title Sawan Biang translates into Paradise Diversion. It has been made into a TV series multiple times. The most recent, which is the 2008 version, features Ken as Kavi, the male protagonist, and Anne as Naren, the female protagonist. The story revolves around the rich and spoiled Kavi Voravad, who is really angry with his father for marrying multiple times after his mother's death. Although Kavi is blessed with material comforts, he yearns for his father's undivided attention and resents his new wives. Leela, one of his classmates from school, had a crush on him when they both studied together. He cruelly rejects her. Nursing a wounded female pride, she moves on. Years later, Leela gets engaged to someone else. While in a car with her fiance, she meets with an accident caused by Kavi's father. Her fiance passes away. Kavi's father meets Leela at the hospital and ends up eventually falling in love with her. He proposes and she accepts his marriage proposal. Once married, Leela moves in her mother, her sister Naren, and her brother into Kavi's palatial house. Kavi is enraged that he has to share his roof with all of these people and creates conflict so that they would leave. Kavi and Leela both butt heads constantly since they are both stubborn, manipulative, and aggressive. Kavi senses that Leela is slightly jealous and competitive when it comes to Naren. Just to irritate Leela, he starts making comparisons between her and Naren, telling her that he finds Naren more attractive than her. Meanwhile, he genuinely starts feeling attracted towards Naren since, unlike Leela, Naren is well mannered, caring, and sincere. He starts bullying and harassing Naren, initially to irritate Leela, but eventually because he wants to get closer to her. His harassment of Naren escalates slowly. It starts with verbal harassment and slight threats, and then moves on to physically violating her space to eventually physically slapping her. There's this escalating cycle of violence between Kavi and Leela, which starts to impact the people around them. There is one major blowout fight between Kavi and Leela. Here, she pretends that Kavi has physically assaulted her and yells and screams so that everybody in the family comes running. In front of his father, she pretends that he has beaten on her and starts crying. His father takes Leela's side and erroneously punishes Kavi. Kavi is furious and distressed and, in a fit of anger, leaves the place. On his way out, he sees Naren returning from work. In his heightened emotional state, Kavi kidnaps Naren and takes him to one of his beach houses. Here, he keeps her for 3 days. Here, he not only physically and verbally abuses her, but also essays her. For 3 days, their family is searching for Naren. Although they suspect that Kavi might have something to do with her disappearance, they are unable to conclusively connect the two. Upon their return, Kavi's abuse of Naren continues. Kavi's father is able to sense that he is harassing Naren. Talking to Kavi to stop harassing her does not help matters. To punish Kavi, he changes his will such that after him, he will have to share his wealth with Leela's family. Because of all of the stress in their life, Kavi's father passes away. Kavi, after the loss of his father, becomes less of a raging asshole and slowly starts the trajectory of character growth. He is frustrated by the revelations of his father's will, but reluctantly accepts his fate. Meanwhile, Naren realizes that she can no longer put up with Kavi's presence, and so she leaves his house and starts living alone. There she discovers that she is pregnant with Kavi's child. Once he finds out that she is pregnant, he wants to take responsibility for her and their future child. The traumatized Naren is repulsed by Kavi and keeps running away from him. The final chapter of the story is spent with Kavi groveling to get Naren back. He does everything that he can to get her forgiveness, and to get her to come back to him. After a lot of effort on his part, she accepts his love and they live happily ever after. Here, crucial is the letter that Kavi's father leaves for Leela, explaining that she needs to see Kavi as a child who is deprived of love. He strongly believes that love is the one thing that can help Kavi, and that Naren, with her purity, will be the right partner for him. Here again, like Anastasia, who constantly challenges Christian's lifestyle and brings out the family man in him, Naren continues to question Kavi and makes him reconsider his worldview. Despite his cynicism and bitterness, Kavi finds himself falling in love with Naren because of her sincerity and honesty. This recurrent theme of the female protagonist taming the rogue hero is seen across cultures. These stories are written by women for women. The authors writing these stories and the readers consuming them are both clearly very well educated. So, why do women write and read novels where the rogue hero is reformed and becomes a family man and lives happily ever after despite his many sins? By constructing such narratives, the authors are displaying a realization that the world we live in is skewed in favor of male power and that women are often heavily penalized and at the receiving end of their aggression. In real life, abusive men don't change unless they want to. The man doesn't always repent and come back to claim the girl he essayed and impregnated. The abuser doesn't suddenly stop abusing their victim just because they have fallen in love with them or suddenly care about their well being. In fact, the abuse often escalates and keeps continuing in cycles. Lundy Bancroft, in his book, Why Does He Do That?, says about abusers counseling abusive men is difficult work. They are usually very reluctant to face up to the damage that they've been causing women, and often children as well, and hold on tightly to their excuses in victim blaming. They become attached to the various privileges they earn through mistreating their partners. And they have habits of mind that make it difficult for them to imagine being in a respectful and equal relationship with a woman. The abuser would like us to accept the following simple but erroneous formula: feelings cause behavior. Although our feelings can influence how we wish to act, our choices of how to behave are ultimately determined more by our attitudes and our habits. We respond to our emotional wounds based on what we believe about ourselves, how we think about the person who has hurt us, and how we perceive the world. The disrespect that abusive men so often direct toward women in general tends to be born of their cultural values and conditioning rather than personal experiences of being victimized by women. Writing these novels allows these authors a sense of resetting the scales of justice, where, in the battle of good and evil, despite the brute force of evil, it is good that triumphs. The Epicurean excess is pushed back, and the biblical Garden of Eden is restored. By watching Kavi go from an aggressive and abusive bully to a man groveling for the love of this girl, wrongs are righted. Fictionally, good triumphs over evil, where in real life, wealthy and powerful men are not called into account for their crimes against women. By watching Christian fall in love with Anna to such an extent that he is willing to give up his BDSM lifestyle, his fear of intimacy, and even all of his hard earned wealth, we as audience attain catharsis for the real life experiences of women, where most of us do not get to experience this depth of love, passion, and devotion from the men in our lives who have wronged us.